That's a filthy.
This is 142.2, The Kingdom.
And once again, the Lombardi Trophy has a red and gold reflection. You can doubt the Chiefs. You can dislike the Chiefs. You can disrespect the Chiefs. You're gonna have to deal with the Kansas City Chiefs.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to 142.2 The Kingdom. I am your host, Dominic and we got Richard here today. Hopefully, we got some of the other members of this awesome podcast and live stream coming up in a bit. But you are listening or watching via X, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you can listen to awesome sports podcast. We are official Chiefs Kingdom podcast for you today. I was out last week, but Richard, thank you so much for holding it down as usual. Great addition as always. But we changed from Wednesday to Thursday. I don't know what was going on Wednesday, but it's
I'm sure
probably nothing important. Nothing crazy.
Websites didn't go down or anything. I'm sure there wasn't 1.4 million plus people watching somebody's podcast last night.
Probably not. Who knows? But thank you guys so much for watching us right now. Obviously, this past weekend, we saw the first preseason game of the Arizona Cardinals versus our Kansas City Chiefs. 20-17 loss, but it's preseason, so does it really matter? But what really mattered, in our opinion, was getting to watch guys that we have been ecstatic for to get on the field and prove that they deserve to be on the roster. Rich, this game had a very, very exciting start. In general, I think all the first team guys really showed why they're the first team guys, and then the game got interesting once the first team guys weren't on the field anymore. But what were your initial thoughts? Player of the game, we're going to go over some of the tape, but initial thoughts of our first preseason game against the Cardinals.
Well, the starters were the starters. There really wasn't much to really say in terms of Pat and the receivers, because we started off the game with a great play on special teams. So they only wound up classic Andy. He said they were going to play the entire first quarter. They played like 10 snaps. So that's to be expected. But everybody, for the most part, looked really good. I thought that outside of one rep that has been circulating on the internet ever since Saturday, I thought both Josh Simmons and Kingsley looked good on the left side of the offensive line. Josh Simmons in particular, I thought looked really good. Couple little things that they had an issue with communication-wise from what I saw and from what some people have broken down, but otherwise I thought he was a really solid debut. I'm interested to see how they look against Seattle, because Seattle does have some interesting pass rushers that are coming along. So that should be another solid test for them, for their communication and otherwise. And overall, I thought the rookies were fine. There were some that did better than others. Noel Williams looked really good. Jeffrey Bassett looked really good in his snaps. I liked how he was able to diagnose plays, get in there and run support. He was flying around sideline to sideline, so I liked his activity. I thought Ashton Gelati was very active, got himself back into plays, kept some plays from being bigger than they probably would have been initially. And I thought it was overall pretty good for the rookies. There's still some stuff that's got to get taken care of. Dave Tobe was a little bit critical of Brashard Smith based on his special teams work, which after going back and looking at the film, I tend to agree. So I initially had him out as like a C+. I thought his special teams work was fine. Just looking at it overall initially, but going back, taking a look at some other stuff, it's like, well, no, he's probably going to need to clean that up a little bit too. So hope he gets a little bit more work with the offense because he didn't really get a whole lot of snaps there. Most of his snaps were on special teams. So that's one thing I definitely want to see. And I really want to see more from Jalen Royals. I can't really say much about what he did because it was kind of either plays getting blown up immediately or just kind of little quick outs, tried to get a couple screens that got blown up. So I don't really have a great view of what he's done yet. So hopefully that can be expanded upon and we kind of see a little bit more against Seattle, which starters are supposed to some starters Andy said are going to rest. Pat's obviously not going to play at this point. Trav's not going to play at this point, but the starting offensive line is. So hopefully with an extended look, we can see more with Gardner. Some of these receivers kind of get more reps and we hopefully see a little bit more.
100%. My initial takeaways for this game were that we executed at all three levels immediately. I know it's the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals this year, and when we do predictions, it'll be very interesting to see where we each have every division and how we have it all stacked up. But I feel like the Cardinals have a very sneaky team. It just really depends on, in my opinion, the connection between Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr., because that connection should have been way more prolific last year, in my opinion. But to immediately get a fumble, I think it was Christian Wallace.
Yeah, it was Christian Wallace that got that, either recovered it or forced it. It was Brashard Smith had a great start to his special teams, and then it got kind of worse from there. But I think he was also in on that, forcing that fumble. So
yeah, and then it's just a hilarious stat line of just Mahomes. He technically had two passes. One was called for a pass interference, but to be
what
one
about
for
a touchdown
one,
too? Tyquan Thornton had him taken care of off the snap, which was encouraging to see.
But to be 1 for 1 for 1 yard and 1 touchdown is a Mahomes stat I thought was hilarious.
I don't think I've seen a back shoulder fade from Patrick in like 5 years. Like,
and that was
like,
a beauty. I'll try to pull it up real quick. But and to Jason Brownlee of all people, that was exciting. It was a perfectly thrown ball, but for a second it looked like it was just going to be kind of out of reach, and Brownlee kind of made a statement. I think he got a lot.
6'1", 6'2" with as long arms as he has. That was a great ball. I don't think you could draw that up any better than what it was.
100%. And then just seeing in general, and I'm about to pull up this play for you guys. Just seeing that right after that, I know Kyler threw a really horrendous ball to Jaden Hicks. Basically, it was no one was open. It was a bad read, but being able to get a turnover, Jaden Hicks is going to be one of those guys that I feel like a lot of Chiefs Kingdom is ready for a huge year, especially based off of the potential he showed last year. Based on what Corey last year when we drafted him was like, I called it. This is the guy. I think he'll have a great impact year. Hopefully he'll be able to cover tight ends better than Justin Reed, in my opinion. But who knows? Other than that, I just thought it was nice. I thought Jeffrey Basso was my rookie of the game. With Josh Simmons, he only had 11 snaps, and they were all good. But I kind of wish I saw more, and I'm more, when it comes to the Josh Simmons, Kingsley Sumatia kind of discourse, I'm more interested in the actual games than preseason. Whereas like with guys like Jeffrey Bassa and Noel Williams, who we'll talk about and discuss, and Norman Lott, I kind of want to see more from them rather than what we get from Josh Simmons personally. I don't know if
I feel like more I want to see the communication, and I want to see, like, there were a couple of plays where it looked like somebody just wasn't on the same page, and that's going to come with time when it comes to a bunch of the communication stuff. I think it's just him getting to a new position in terms of Kingsley. He's got to learn. He's got to learn that stuff. He's got to get comfortable playing guard because it's not the same as playing tackle. There's different reads. There's different people you have to pay attention for. The doubles are different. You're dealing with twists coming from your inside rather than your outside a little more often. So there's just stuff that's going to come with time, and it was evident on a couple of those plays. But overall, I thought it was fine. Outside of that one rep where he just got caught coming off of passing a double team and then hit Creed's foot, which unfortunately made it worse. So, caused an incompletion. Nothing else came from it, so it wound up being a wash. But starting off a game with a turnover and then a touchdown is great. Getting another turnover and then the backup with some of the starters still in there, you get another touchdown. So I think I liked how the offense operated for the most part. I just want to see a few more players sprinkled in. And then on the defense, the turnovers are great. The communication still looks like it's a little bit lacking from some of the backups.
Right.
Even though I thought Christian Wallace had a great game overall, had the fumble on special teams, got a pick, had a couple nice pass breakups. Noel Williams had a couple nice pass breakups. So I think overall there's good stuff to build on, but I need to see more in a little bit more extended time, especially from the pass rush, because the pass rush wasn't really there, though to the Cardinals' credit, they got the ball out quickly a lot. So there were not a ton of like 5-step drops and scanning the field. It was more a 3-step drop, try to get the ball out. And whenever plays were extended to me, you saw Kyler got baited by Jaden Hicks and threw a ball right to him when he had to escape out of the pocket. So I thought it was fine. There's definitely more stuff that's got to be improved. They'll have the opportunity to do it on Friday. So I'm curious to see how they allocate snaps, because there are cut down days there is cut down day that's coming up. Even though it's not official anymore, I'm still expecting people, like, after their second preseason games, are probably going to start cutting people, and you may see some new additions and people shuffling around teams. So I think it'll be very telling how many snaps you're going to see people have in this game specifically, especially if some starters just aren't going to play at all.
Yeah, I think one of the things about this preseason game is, and one of the other things that kind of annoyed me, I kind of wish Andy gave the first string offense a real series rather than the shortened field. I understand it is preseason, and we don't really need to see much of Mahomes in preseason, but I think just being able to show Patrick with this offensive line specifically, and more reps on it's preseason, so it's like more of like a simulation in a way, but like kind of close to real game football. I just kind of wanted to see more. I wish instead of Andy going right to Gardner, and I gotta say, one of the positives that I have is that, I know everyone was excited last year that Carson Wentz was our backup last year. I am 10 times more confident with Gardner Minshew as our backup than I am with Carson Wentz, especially with how Carson Wentz played specifically against the Broncos.
I'm just glad we finally have somebody who's not 30 plus years old as Pat's backup. Like Pat knows enough in this league now towards like, okay, let's get a younger backup behind him that we know can go win a game if we need to. And I think having Gardner Minshew around is a more comfortable safety blanket for me because he's been a starter before. He knows how to win games. He knows how to make the correct reads, make the throws. Yeah, he can kind of get himself into trouble a little bit with turnovers, but he knows how to be smart with the football when the game calls for it. So I am totally fine with him being our backup. I'm in the event that we need it, and then the event that we need one. So
yeah. So just kind of like the game in general, I just wish Mahomes had one more.
I
series.
kind of wish he did too. It's unfortunate, but that's Andy. I was like, oh yeah, okay. They had basically a perfect drive off a turnover. All right, he's coming out of the game, and I'm like, all right, that's on brand. We can move along.
Yeah,
and just kind of seeing a couple, just kind of going through a couple of these reps here. I like I said, I like what I've seen from Simmons. Kingsley has a good rep here too. I believe that's Jalen Moore on the outside. I believe that's Jalen Moore and not Jawan Taylor on the outside on this rep, because I believe that's Gardner in the game right now. So
yeah, that is Gardner.
Yeah, I think they put Jalen Moore in on this series and took Jawan Taylor out. So I like how he gets the end to basically run the circle. Same with Simmons here, just absorbs the bull rush completely. I think he's a little bit far in his stance with his back leg for my taste, but he recovers really quickly. That's just a personal preference from playing offensive line more than anything, but he absorbs the bull rush completely and doesn't have any problems on that rep. And then it's just an easy clean pocket for Gardner. Gets the ball out on time in rhythm, and it's another first down. So that's the example there. Like, that's a great rep from the offensive line. That's the type of stuff I want to see from the offensive line, where you can see the communication was there. Everybody's a hat on a hat, double team where there needs to be a double team, and Gardner has absolutely no problems in the pocket.
Yeah, I think Simmons, this debut for the preseason was really nice. Obviously, you only get so much with the 11 snaps, but being able to see him actually in an NFL style game and execute well was great to see. He's definitely got that athleticism that he had in Ohio State. I think this was the same play, but in a different angle.
Just the fact that he's on the field and looking even remotely like he did at Ohio State is a win for me, because this is exactly what I wanted to see. Him being healthy on the field and looking like he has retained most, if not all, of the athleticism he showed on tape.
100%.
So even though it was only 11 snaps, that's exactly what I wanted to get out of this preseason for him. Get him on the field, show me that he's healthy, show me he can handle stuff like this. And that's no slouch at pass rusher that he's going up against. We know that Baron Browning from his days on the Denver Broncos. Like, we know him. He's no slouch as a pass rushing linebacker. So I liked this. This is the stuff I like to see, him just being able to stonewall rushers. Even if he looks like he's losing slowly. He's not getting beat right off the snap. He's understanding who his man is. He doesn't get faked out by the outside rush coming from the DT. And just understands what his assignment is. So that's the stuff I like to see from new offensive linemen, especially rookie offensive linemen, is he understands his assignment and knows exactly what to do.
100%. I think one of the things that was a big talking point, especially this weekend, and I think you alluded to it earlier, and I'll try and find a clip of it, but Kingsley Sumaataia, he had a pretty solid preseason game, but he had the one bad rep, which, based off Chiefs fans that we know, especially in our group chats, they can be a little too worried about the wrong things, in my opinion. Based off what you saw with Kingsley, and I know he's got massive shoes to fill, especially the way that Joe Tooney played when he joined the Chiefs. How do you think he's been adapting at that left guard position?
Well, on the shoes to fill, it is never easy when you are the guy who has to replace a multiple All-Pro and Super Bowl winning left guard. Like the dude is probably going to be a Hall of Fame offensive lineman when it's all said and done, because he just has that type of resume. That being said, he doesn't need to be an All-Pro left guard for us. That's the beauty of Joshua Simmons looking like he can anchor down left tackle for the foreseeable future, just based on everything we've seen so far. If Josh Simmons is healthy and looking like he can do what he showed on tape, and having one of the best centers in the NFL and Creed Humphrey next to him, being in between those guys, he just needs to be a serviceable left guard. If I am not hearing his name called as, oh darn, there's Kingsley committing a penalty, or Kingsley got beat inside here, or things like that throughout the course of the game, then I'm content, because that's what that's what you want as an offensive lineman. You do not want to be in the spotlight during a game, because then that's where more problems come in, because then you're overthinking, and that's not what you want to do as an offensive lineman. Not really, because
that's not your job. That most people have been.
And on this rep, this rep is tough. Rep is tough here, because you get the blitzer. Mac Wilson has been around the block a few times in this league, so he knows what he's doing here. Kingsley rightfully, as the ball is snapped, goes towards the defensive tackle, because that's his responsibility as a guard. He is first threat at the snap of the ball, because Mac Wilson comes so late. You're not really expecting him from at edge length to come in and try to blow up that play there initially. He disguises that extremely well, because he looked like if he's going to go anywhere, he's going to go towards Creed. That doesn't happen ultimately as the ball is snapped. So Kingsley rightfully goes toward the DT, sees that he passes him off to Creed, because that's what he's supposed to do in that situation, and Mac Wilson knows that. And then he sees him coming, says, okay, I got to then shift myself over to go help, and then at that point he's caught off balance by the time Mac Wilson gets to him. I think he does trip over Creed's leg here as well. I don't think it's super clear, but on side view, it's a little bit more clear. He gets pushed back into his leg, and at that point, it results in an incomplete pass. At the end of the day, the result is, okay, you lived to fight another down. Didn't result in a sack, no pick. Yeah, so the end result is fine, but that looks to me like it's a little bit of a communication error, where Creed is like, hey, where Creed probably should be telling him, hey, I got this guy. This is who I got. You just give me a hand over to him, but look towards Kingsley's side, who's coming over from over there. And that looks like that didn't happen. So two guys are focused on one, and Mac Wilson takes advantage with a great timing blitz. So I don't think it's the end of the world. It's definitely not great, but it was his worst rep of the night. So, it happens. He definitely lost that rep, but overall, I think he was fine. He was good. He was good. Solid in the run game. He was moving. He was moving people. He was double teaming and getting up to the second level really well. And ultimately, I think that's a great learning rep, where it's Creed and Kingsley needing to tell each other, "Hey, we need to communicate a little bit better and point out responsibilities," because that's what the center needs to be. That's exactly what the center needs to be doing with the rest of the offensive line is IDing, and it didn't look like that happened on that play to me.
I think the thing is that when it comes to football in general, and this has only been the second year where I've really like dived into tape, being a part of this podcast and what we did last year, is that everybody is going to have a moment like this in every game. And to have just one blemish like this, and it's everyone in the back of their minds is thinking about the Kingsley Sumatia that faced Trey Hendrickson last year. And that's totally different position, totally different attitude. And I've voiced my opinion about how I felt because of the three-peat. They didn't really give Kingsley much of a shot at left tackle, and they didn't.
No, they didn't. And I can understand why, because of the situation that they were in, and they needed to have a solution to lock down left tackle, and that solution at the time could not be Joe Thuney. It just could not be Joe Thuney at that point in the season.
Right.
Once their hand was forced, that's a different discussion. But offensive line is hard, man, because there is so much that you have to think about in terms of reading the defense, especially as an offensive tackle. You're not going to get any help most of the time as an offensive tackle, especially in an offense designed like Andy Reid's is, where you're going to be going 4 wide, or you're sending your running backs out on routes a lot, because that's what the offense is designed to do, is spread the field, spread you out. And so you have to win your one-on-ones. And as athletic as Kingsley is, he just wasn't able to do that. And he unfortunately got the early gauntlet of pass rushers that just took advantage of that.
Led the league in sacks.
Yeah, I mean, you come off of a game where you went up against Adoye Mafe, who is no slouch as a pass rusher for the Baltimore Ravens, and then you go right into Trey Hendrickson, who is really good. He led the league in sacks. So, it sucks, but that's just the reality of what happened. Right. And hopefully he learned from that, he grew from that, and he can take that experience and understand that as a guard, even though you have different responsibilities, you not only does he have more help because he's got 2 guys next to him who have experience at their positions and have played a high level of football just like he has, but he can feel comfortable knowing that his responsibilities are not involved as much with him being on an island. 100%. So I think that'll help him. I think and like I said, he just has to be serviceable. He doesn't have to be an all-pro. He doesn't have to be a pro bowler. He just has to be average. He doesn't have to be amazing. And that can give him room to get better. And he can just focus on the little things and just go out and go play football.
100%. I think I'm specifically rooting for Kingsley based off of what happened last year. Now, granted, the circumstances were the biggest that anybody's had since the 49ers had a chance to do it, like back in the 80s, right? So if you're really struggling at a certain position, especially the most important position for a right-handed quarterback, like as much as I didn't like it, I understand.
Yeah,
So
I mean, like I said, yeah, the situation was just the situation was what it was. I mean, and nobody can do anything about it. Nobody can change that. So hopefully he learned from it, can move forward, and be better at a new position. And I think, and it also helps that you have competent depth in Jalen Moore if you need it.
Oh, for
So
sure.
I don't think it's much to worry about on that front. As of
So
right now, we'll see what happens.
other than that being the main talking point, there were two rookies that really showed up, in my opinion. And I think my rookie that I was very impressed with the most was Jeffrey Bassett out of Oregon. Great linebacker. I think, as we're going to talk about soon with your mock 53, that he definitely might have a place on this roster. What did you see from Jeffrey Bassa as someone just really intently looking at how a linebacker executes? I know that he in Oregon kind of had that, was kind of like the quarterback of linebackers, kind of like how Nick Bolton was. How did you see that translate kind of to the field? What did he do that made you think, man, he's going to really fit in this linebacking unit and could honestly have a really great future as a Kansas City Chief?
I loved how great he was at quickly diagnosing plays. Like he was very quick to find his run fits. This play in particular, he just got right inside the center and guard just immediately. They had no chance to get him as he knifed through the hole. I loved his activity. I loved his energy. He just found a way to be around plays. And while not being the biggest guy on the field, like just having those instincts and that ability to blow up run plays. I believe this was the fourth down that they failed to convert. So that was a really big play early on in the game that really showed me that his diagnosis ability is really good. It looked like he felt really comfortable out there. It didn't feel like anything was too fast for him. It looked like he let the game come to him. Like I said, he was involved. He was active. I thought it was a really good debut for him. I want to see him do more. I want to see if maybe they let him. I don't know if he was calling plays at this point in the game, but I kind of want to see if he's calling plays, if he's kind of if he's the one kind of getting involved in calling the defense, basically, these next two games, just because I want to see if he has the ability to still be effective while doing that. But overall, I was very encouraged by what I saw. The moment did not look too big for him. The game didn't look too fast for him. So that's very encouraging for me.
Yeah, I think what he did specifically in the run game, defensively, being able to spot guys instantly, like you said, was very impressive, especially even if it's a preseason game, even if it's against 2s and 3s, like just having the wherewithal to really
well, what's funny about this one is Kyler Murray is still in the game. I think this is the starting offense. So
wow.
That's very telling. Yeah, that is Kyler Murray back there. So that
number one,
very encouraging that he's able to still be around the football and get himself into plays. So
I think what Jeffrey Bassett brings is not just depth, but I mean, as much as we like Drew Tranquil, I don't know. He's got at least 2 more years on his contract. If he doesn't have a good year like he did a couple years ago, it might be Jeffrey Bassett's time to really overtake that kind of position as that speedy linebacker, and being able to, like, in case of emergency, if Nick Bolton is injured, to have a guy like him to be able to diagnose the offense and really help out with the defense like he does in these reps specifically, I think is extremely valuable. He was a 5th or 6th round pick.
The 5th round pick.
5th round pick for this kind of value, and I know it's preseason, and you can chalk. There's been a lot of great preseason players that do absolutely nothing, right? I mean, preseason legends.
I'm looking at you, Tyquan Thornton. Prove me wrong, please. Anyways,
So, I mean, this was very encouraging, and I'm
shout out to Ashton Gelati on here also for holding the edge. So linebacker, so Jeffrey Bassett could get in there and make that play too. This was also a nice rep for him. Him being able to split that that double team and hold the edge to force him into the linebackers was actually a really nice play as well. So
I think Jeffrey Bassett, I think, was the rookie that I was like, hell yeah, he's got a great future. And then Noah Williams, man, from Cal, led the entire NCAA in interceptions.
Man, I thought he was
some good front.
I honestly thought he was going to get a pick here. I think if he turns his head around, he gets a pick here. But that's a great job staying in phase with the receiver. I really thought this. I thought this was going to be another highlight play. Wound up being just a really good pass breakup. So that's great discipline by him to not get fooled off the shake and bake that basically tried to get put on him. So that's really good. He was really good on special teams. Had a great job covering the absolutely monster punt that Matt Ariza had in that game to flip the field. So I think he's going to be really good. I think he may start out on special teams a little bit more. But first off, man, what an absolute bomb of a punt by Ariza here. I think if Noel realizes just how well that punt was made, he probably would have been able to get there a little bit quicker and possibly have a chance to dive on that football, because that was a live football for a second, because I think he shanks this.
He definitely muffed it.
He muffs this punt. I think if Noel realizes just how well that's kicked, he probably gets there a little quicker and is able to, because he outruns both gunners. He might have been able to make a better play on that and possibly even come up with the football. But either way, great job by him to keep that to no return.
For sure. I think those two were my rookies of the game. Obviously, I think with me specifically with Josh, it's just more like I need to kind of see it where it's these guys are trying to prove they belong on the roster. I didn't really hear much of Norman Lott, but based off what he's done in camp, I think he has a good shot of really making an impact. And then Gelati, like you talked about in some of these clips that we've seen, he's showing impact, but there's still more that to be desired.
I'd like to see more from them this next game, especially because Seattle doesn't have the interior of their offensive line figured out yet. So if they're out there for an extended period and those guys are in the game, I'd like to see them try to show off a little bit more disruption. I know there's a lot of stuff going on where people are like, oh, was it a good idea that Norman Lott put on that extra weight, all that extra muscle and weight, because he's a pass rush specialist and they're trying to be a 3-down lineman. Well, I think that's part of it. He doesn't want to just be on the field for pass rush downs. He doesn't want to only be a 20 snap, 25 snap a game guy. He wants to be a 40 snap lineman who can be in there and have the ability to make plays regularly. And I don't think he was fully healthy yet. He injured his ankle not even, I think, about a week or so prior to that. So I'm not entirely sure how healthy he was on that ankle, and he was still getting and from my perspective, he was still getting inside guards and pretty quickly and standing guys up and allowing other guys to make plays. So I don't think it was all bad, but I would still like to see more. Same with Gelati. He was splitting double teams. He was allowing other guys to make plays, and he was active in the run game and in keeping stuff shorter gains than they probably would have been otherwise. But I still want to see more. And I think with if the starters play for an extended period for Seattle, he'll have a nice test up against Lucas and Cross for Seattle, because those are the two spots on the offensive line we know are set.
I think the offense this Friday, tomorrow, will be able to this defense. I was about to say this offense, but this entire team, I feel like they're going to play at least first team reps, at least a quarter to maybe a quarter and a couple minutes. It just really depends on how much Mahomes plays, and depends on how much, they want the guys that are kind of in between being starters and being like that, just that next rotational guy, to get a lot of reps against Seattle.
Yeah. Well, I know Patrick and Travis were working with scout team today and yesterday in practice. So with Gardner taking the first team reps, that tells me that they are likely not playing.
Right.
So, but Andy also has said that the starting offensive line will play and some of the other starters will play. So with that being said, that should allow us to get an extended look at how the offensive line is playing, and hopefully we maybe see a little bit more of guys like Jalen Moore, Tyquan Thornton, some of these guys that didn't really get a whole lot of snaps that we were expecting, like Nico maybe as a wide receiver, or Brashard Smith more in the running game.
For sure.
Guys like Elijah Badger in the receiving game, who really didn't start to get some extended time until kind of deep into the second half. Maybe we see them a little bit sooner, so we can kind of get an idea of what they have at this point. Because even though they've seen them in training camp, they haven't seen much of them in live reps yet. Plus, I still think, even though there's only one official cutdown day from 90 to 53, I still think after these second preseason games get played, you're going to see guys start getting cut. I think it may be more gradual. You may see a few guys on this day and a few guys on that day and a few guys the day after that. But I think with that in mind, and if that goes that way, you could start seeing teams bringing in guys that could make a few of these guys a little bit nervous. And so I think it would behoove some of these guys to put good performances on tape if they want to make this team specifically, because I think if that works out that way, then there could be some decent players that they decide, hey, let's go pick up this guy and see how he does next week, because we're not so sure about this position.
100%. Speaking of, we have your mock 53-man roster 2.0, with the one confirmed being Matt Ariza, even though there's most likely going to be some obvious ones. But break down what changes that you made to this 53-man roster and what you expect, could be players that will prove in maybe the next two preseason games that they deserve to be on this roster.
All right, so quarterbacks and running backs are staying the same. I don't believe the smoke that Brashard Smith maybe won't make this team yet, just because I don't think there was enough put on tape from an offensive standpoint to make that determination yet. I know his special teams work has been kind of put under the microscope a little bit by Dave Tobe, but I just don't believe that yet. So those have stayed the same for me. One change at tight end, Robert Tonyan. Welcome to the 53-man roster. I think he's pretty much solidified tight end 3 at this point. Just because we're not entirely sure Jared Wiley's all the way back yet. Jake Brenningstool, it looks like he's good, trending toward being an IR stash. So I think those are going to be your 4 tight ends unless Trey Watson, who is starting to get back to practicing, does something crazy over these next couple of weeks. I don't think he's going to make this roster. He'll probably be on the practice squad. Wide receivers, I was considering putting Jason Brownlee on here instead of Elijah Badger, but this is another case of I haven't seen enough from these guys yet. Same with Tyquan Thornton. I didn't really see enough yet to where I'm like, oh yeah, this guy is 100% making the roster. He kind of got pulled. I'm like, I'm exactly like you. I want to see the offense for an extended period first. He played like, based on his snaps and when he was pulled, it looks like that he is kind of with that starting-ish group of receivers as of right now, but I want to see more. I want to see what it looks like in the second game. If it looks like it's trending that way, then he'll be on this roster. Only one change on the offensive line. Sorry, Wanye, booted you off for Issa Pole, who was another person that I've highlighted from the first preseason game that I thought had a very solid day. He's still pretty raw mechanically as an offensive lineman, but he was doing really good in his pass rush sets. He was stonewalling guys on the regular. That right side of the offensive line, quarterbacks did not really have to worry all that much because rushers just were not getting there when he was in the game. So that's an interesting development. I think he's had himself quietly a really nice camp, a really nice preseason so far. So I'm curious to see what that continues to look like in camp. Defensive line is pretty much the same. Unfortunately, Jarius Robinson had a foot fracture, so he can't build on his sack that he got last week. So that's unfortunate, but basically that keeps the defensive line the same. Cornerbacks and safeties are the same for right now. But if I had to pick a 53rd man on the roster, it is no longer Joshua Williams, and it is now Najee Johnson.
Yeah.
I am still in that camp of, man, I wish they would just put this guy at safety like they're doing with Shamari Connor now and stop trying to make him an outside corner. I get it. It's Spags. He does what he does, and he wants guys to be multiple. But I thought Dave Merritt's comments were very telling that if you're only playing one position, then there should be no excuses as to why you're not where you need to be doing what you're supposed to be doing at that position. I feel like that's calling a few people out. And that may tell us that a couple of these guys in the defensive back room may not be long for this roster if they keep making mistakes. I actually thought Joshua Williams had a decent game. It was nothing groundbreaking or anything, but I think he had one or two pass breakups. I think he wasn't out there committing penalties. He was actually using his hands effectively without holding or grabbing or anything like that. So I thought that was encouraging, but he's still kind of down there with the second and third teams and just hasn't looked great in camp from everything I've heard. But then again, most of the DBs haven't looked like phenomenal in camp. So we'll see what happens on that. And then from there, everything else is pretty much the same because I don't see much of that changing. I think Bassa is going to be linebacker 4 over Cam Jones still. And I think Nico is right now the front runner for returns. As of this moment.
I guess my one question is, I have heard nothing about Elijah Badger at all throughout camp, and you still have him as the 6th wide receiver.
I'm still believing, and I've seen that. I've had to dig for it, but I've seen that people have highlighted that he's just he's doing his job. He's not like doing anything super standout or flashy, but I do see every now and then he makes some nice plays. They highlight him on a couple of good deep throws, and I thought that he had a couple nice catches. One that was negated by a penalty, and he did have a penalty call on him that I thought was a little wishy-washy. But other than that, I mean, I think he's just kind of he's doing his job. He's coming. It's like Noel Williams. I hadn't heard much about Noel Williams up until the build up to the first preseason game, and then the first preseason game happened, and he's looked pretty solid. But I still just need to see more from Tyquan Thornton in preseason action. I can't bring myself to say, oh yeah, Tyquan Thornton is 100% wide receiver 6 right now, because he does this every year at training camp in the preseason, where he looks great. Then we get to the regular season and he doesn't live up to those expectations that were set for him during camp. So
yeah,
I just need to see it. I need to see it before I believe it. And we didn't see enough of it because of how the game unfolded to start, to where I can say, oh yeah, he's 1,000% wide receiver 6. Wide receiver 6, in my opinion, is still up in the air until somebody makes a definitive enough statement to separate themselves. And funnily enough, that's been Jason Brownlee at this point. So
right.
If that tells you what wide receiver 6 battle looks like. So,
and there's still obviously the guy that no one wants to have as wide receiver 6, who is having an okay camp, as what I've heard. But
he will not be on my roster until he does something.
That's valid.
And he has not.
We don't even need to say his
anything.
Name. We don't need to. Solid 53 as usual. Before we end, we got a couple of news things I wanted to just bring up. So Kay Adams was with us in St. Joe this week for her podcast. If you haven't checked out Kay Adams's content, she's really great. She used to be on Good Morning Football with Peter Schrager and the guys. Now she has her own thing on FanDuel, and she got to interview like Patrick Mahomes. And I think the main news that I was really excited about was McDuffie. She interviewed McDuffie about contract talks and everything. And the quote I have here was that, I know when it really comes to this contract stuff and everybody else has these questions like where your head's at and stuff, but I truly feel like my agent, our relationship has grown so much over the past 3 years. And like, that's one of my favorite human beings on the planet Earth. I feel like I have the best agent ever, and he keeps me up to date. Like, if they talk at 6 a.m., I'm getting a call at 6:01, telling me about everything they talk about. And because of that, I feel like I've just truly been allowed to focus on ball and focus at St. Joe's, focus on football, and honestly not even worry about the contract. If I get paid, I get paid. I know it's coming. And right now, I don't really want to worry about it. Like, I want to really just focus on doing what I can for this team and letting all that contract and all that money stuff be handled by the person I pay, which is my agent. And after that, McDuffie kind of just alluded to that, you know, the talks are going well and things are looking good out here in KC. So I know a lot of people were worried as soon as we paid George Karlaftis, but it seems like this, I'm not going to say it's a done deal, but it's a really great start. And having the mindset that Trent McDuffie has going into this season for contract talks has been great.
There's one thing I'm glad that we are not. It is the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, 100%.
Because contract talks get handled by the agents, and that is all going to work itself out. So I am certain that one way or the other, the contract is going to get handled, and we will know the future of Trent McDuffie here soon, even if it's not necessarily this season. I think that that's going to get handled, and in the meantime, we are going to continue to get what we have gotten out of Trent McDuffie to this point in his career. So I'm not really concerned about all of that at this time.
Another thing that I thought was great to know was Kay was talking about what was it like when you got back to St. Joe and got back to OTAs and everything, and did they even mention about the Super Bowl? And I liked the response was no one's talked about it. That's a different day. We're focused on the present, and I think that's the best attitude that this team could have. Obviously, they want to prove that game was an anomaly, but to have the wherewithal to just be like, we're focusing on tomorrow, not about the past, has been really good sign, in my opinion, especially since we know the type of players and the type of attitude that this team brings almost every single year since Mahomes has been the starting quarterback. So I thought that was
you turn
great.
the page. That's the kind of culture that Andy Reid and the coaching staff want. Is you turn the page. You focus on the task that's in front of you, and as of right now, that's getting ready for Week 1 in Brazil. So I appreciate the fact that they're keeping the main thing, and that's focusing on this season. And as always, trying to win a Super Bowl, which is exactly what all other 31 teams should be doing. So I'm not concerned about that. I think that's business. That's business as usual. That's exactly what they should be doing. And I can't wait to see what happens once they get onto the field, because I think that I think that this will be a different team. I think this will be a different style of team than we've seen in the past, especially if everybody comes into it healthy, which it looks like it's trending toward being with Christian Fulton coming back to practice. Hollywood Brown looks like he's getting close to coming back to practice. So I think if everybody is just healthy going into it, I think that things have the potential, even with the Rashee Rice suspension upcoming, to look a lot better starting out, and they won't have the need to rely on the defense so much.
100%. The last thing I kind of want to do, and I kind of allude to it in the talks that we had before this podcast, but I kind of wanted to do something new to end the podcast. Usually our man Trizzy does little inspirational speeches or inspirational talks to like hype up Chiefs Kingdom, let them know like everything's great and everything. This is a new segment I'd like to call Last Call. And it's going to be where one of us does a take and we just say the take, something that's maybe has been grinding our gears, maybe something inspirational like Trizzy, or maybe something that I'm about to do right now. So I'm going to take the floor for a quick second, Rich, if you don't mind. And I'm going to just talk to you, the audience, for this final take for Last Call. There's a lot of talk recently, guys. A lot of doubt. As soon as that Super Bowl happened, and that's why I alluded to this, there's a lot of talk about who the best quarterback in the league is. There's top 5 lists of top 10 quarterbacks and their mechanics, best arm strength, best release point, best being able to place it at the right spot, or just being the best quarterback in general. And we got guys like Bill Simmons saying Josh Allen is clearly the best because Mahomes played a really bad Super Bowl, or Mahomes is not a top 10 quarterback in mechanics, or he's got the second best arm strength, or when it comes to pocket presence, he's the 5th best quarterback in the entire league. And then you got guys like Colin Cowherd that, originally said the Chargers, his beloved Chargers, that he says every year is going to win the division, is going to win the division. Rashawn Slater has an injury and decides, that third place team I had previously, I'm going to move them up to first place and still have the Chiefs as a wild card team. I want to just say all this by saying, do we not have history to look back on when it comes to these discussions? The last time Mahomes was doubted this much was 2022. What happened before that got everybody down? Mahomes had one of the worst second halves of his entire career, which led to an overtime loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. And everyone was like, the discussion was up. Mahomes only had one Super Bowl, one loss in the Super Bowl, a really bad half against the Bengals. The discussion was, is Mahomes really the best quarterback in the league? And what did he do to respond? By having, quite frankly, one of the best quarterback seasons of all time, breaking the all yardage record, throwing 41 touchdowns, and leading the team in offense after trading away Tyreek Hill, being the number one offense in the league, doing it all on a bum ankle, and winning the Super Bowl. And then he does that by repeating, and then has another chance, even with the numbers not being as good as people like. I don't care, fantasy people. What does he do? He gets them to 3 straight Super Bowls, wins 2, loses 1. So all this being said, do you really want to have a chip on your shoulder, Patrick Mahomes, against you? The last year, you could chalk it up to a lot of pressure. That just kind of seems like everything's going their way. It seems inevitable that the Chiefs are going to win. Could there be complacency? Could there just be other factors that got on the way? Yes. But are you really going to sit here and tell people that watch this game for a majority of their lifetime, and tell me that Mahomes is not the best quarterback just because his offensive line, again, was not that good, and that a great team in the Eagles, quite frankly, put belt to ass? They did that. So you can't have it both ways. You can't have it. This Eagles team was great and undervalued because of their quarterback, or is it because Mahomes is just not good? You can't have it both ways. Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. He's about to prove it again. And I know we're about to do predictions in a couple weeks, but he's going to be my MVP. He cut his hair for a reason. He's focused. Everybody at camp has the right idea. That game in February is the past, and they're focused on the future. And that is my last call for tonight.
They say those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And once again, they're picking everybody but the Raiders to win the division other than us. So it's a yearly tradition. I expect it at this point. And like they've done the last 9 years, I expect them to go out and take care of business and win the division again. Because what else are they supposed to do? Just lay down and say, oh, we've done it for 9 years. That's good. We'll let somebody else
another team have it.
They're gonna go and take care of business. This is the same team that won 15 games last year. And I don't see any reason why they can't go win at minimum 12 again. Because they have the championship pedigree. Except they have the coaching staff.
Except for the 1 year. That's all they do. Win 12 games.
Yeah.
What's
why
different?
Why shouldn't I expect them to win 12 games again? Yes. They got better just like everybody else got better. So now it's time to go onto the field and prove it again. So I'll let them handle that. I'm just a fan, but they've not given me any reason to believe in anything other than they're going to go win the division until somebody else proves it and goes and does it. So we will see once they go line it up in Brazil in a couple weeks.
100%. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for bearing with our schedule update and changing it to Thursday for good reason. Obviously, shout out to Taylor Swift and the New Heights crew for a great podcast. It was a great podcast. But you are listening and watching on X, on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. We really appreciate you guys listening in, tuning in. We will be back here next week on Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, like we always are. Like, share, subscribe, all the things. Guys, we really appreciate it. Take it easy. Go Chiefs, and let's win in Seattle.